Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're doing kind of a weird oddball video. Very silly video idea, methinks. Pretty much, I had the idea one day of, what if draw with me, but I am in bed instead of at a desk? Because, you know, it's a little bit more realistic to how my art operation is a lot of the time. But yeah, we'll just jump right into it. Draw a little ditty. You're in my epic bed camera angle. Today we're also, as our medium, we're going to be using these, technically they're mechanical pencils, but they've got the colored lead in them. They're a weird supply that I actually use a decent amount when sketching. I like them. And it sort of ends up being its own limited color palette situation since I only have 8 colors to work with. If you're curious, I use the Papermate brand. Well, the pencils themselves are the Papermate brand, but these days when I get lead replacements, I use Pilot because you get 2 more colors, in case you want to know. Today, I think we're going to draw some dragons. I haven't drawn dragons in quite a while, I want to say, which is crazy because when I was younger, I used to draw them all the time. Anyways, let's just get to it. First thing we're going to start with is we're just going to draw a composition, I suppose, which is just going to be a pretty circular one. I'm thinking I want the dragons, there's going to be about like 6 or 7 of them. We're going to have all of their heads be poking out from the edges of the page. Now we're going to get to sketching all of the designs. Maybe we'll start left to right, probably to prevent smudging. I prepped what I wanted all of the dragons to look like ahead of time last night, mainly because I didn't want to spend extra time while filming trying to figure out what each dragon was going to look like and how to make them all look different from each other and their different palettes. And so all of them had sketches of just their general designs, but they're all at a pretty boring side profile view, just so it's the easiest to reference. I want to give all these guys fun expressions and color as well. I also figured out their color palettes, but I did not figure out what colors are going to go where on their little designs. So that will be fun when we get to that part. I actually just realized for this first one, it probably would be better if I sketch with orange, given the colors that I picked out for this one. Remember one aspect that was giving me trouble last night was figuring out how to put eyes on these guys. If all else fails, I might do a default that I do, just to give them little like oval dot eyes. You might be able to tell that I'm not drawing just any type of dragon right now. I'm specifically drawing a rainwing from Wings of Fire. I don't know why rainwings became my default. They are my favorite tribe, aesthetically. I think they're very fun, and if we're gonna put any sort of Wings of Fire rep in this video, it's gotta be the rainwings because they're so colorful, which is gonna work really well for these pencils. Oh my goodness, I did it. I made eyeballs that look appealing. Goodness. I don't know if we want to do wings in this composition. I might add them later after I get all of the heads sketched. I think I might color this one first, just so you can all see what the vision is. I should mention, in the occasion that you do not know what Wings of Fire is, it's basically a middle grade book series. A lot of dragon books tend to be about humans and dragons like interacting and potentially coexisting. Not really in this series. That's part of what makes it so epic. And to this day, it's like the only book series that I have any like affection for, or I have any attempt to like keep up with. It was definitely because of the book series that I would have quite a long dragon phase. I just drew them a lot. First refill of the sketchbook session. The color palette I'm using For reference for this one, it is actually based off of a specific character in the book series, that being the protagonist of the third book, Glory. I thought this would be a fun reference to her, because she is one of my favorite characters. And it creates kind of this nice complementary color palette with the turquoise blues and then like these oranges. I thought that was fun. Okay, I think we've just about wrapped up the first one. So this should set a little bit of a precedent for what the rest of these should look like. I think for the rest of the dragons, I might sketch all of them first and then jump into color. Oh my god, I just popped off with that dragon arm. Oh my word. Hold on. Artists fix anatomy problems using this one easy trick. This design, I think, was originally supposed to resemble a flower, which I think it does in some respects, particularly these frills, fins, I don't know exactly. But it also ends up looking like those lizards that have like this skin or scales that flare out, which is also pretty cool. Drawing technique. Okay, now that's everything. So let's get to coloring. Just over here in the corner, you can barely see it. I have a theory. I am going to share with you my theory. I have quite an obsession with dragons as a child. My love for dragons seems to be not unlike how a lot of other girls were obsessed with horses. This makes me think that there's a spectrum of girlhood, let's say, between horse girl and dragon girl. I think that they're two opposite ends of a spectrum. The autism spectrum. Alright, that's one done. A few more to go. There's just something about filling in large areas with just this sketchy texture that's very relaxing to me. For those who are not the drawing in bed type, might wonder what the appeal of it is. I find that if I draw at a desk for too long, my back just really starts to hurt. As is, I mainly use my desk for, I guess now, filming videos and for working with mediums that have to be at a desk. Drawing something so bug-like is just reminding me of this one assignment that I had in college where we We spent like 3 weeks going into a biology lab. We drew like a bunch of different stuff that they had in this classroom. A bunch of different like creatures who are dead, creatures in jars, and there's some bugs like pinned on boards and kind of gross, but in some sense kind of cool. I really like this one so far, especially the face. I don't know what I did with the sketching style. I think I let myself be a little bit looser or something and bring in more of the intentionally sketchy lines instead of trying to make things smooth. We've come back after a little bit of a break and we're gonna keep going. These dragons, I want them to look like they're mostly white with accents of the pink, purple, and blue. And so I'll have to be pretty careful with how I lay down the colors in the fur texture. I noticed that with these pencils, the pink and purple specifically have a hard time blending into each other, which is weird because like the purple and blue blend pretty well together. I think it's because for some of these colors, the lead is softer than others. I think the purple and blue are darker colors, which means the lead is a little bit softer, so it might be easier to blend. Went through my Pinterest to look up some different images of kind of a more sketchy technique, mainly because I draw in a pretty sketchy style normally, because that's just the most fun for me. And it kind of got me spiraling into wanting to actually just post a lot of my own art onto Pinterest. I even went through the trouble of like editing my bio and changing my profile pic and making certain folders of mine more accessible. I know like the two main gripes people have with Pinterest is that it's currently filled with a lot of AI slop. And yeah, it does stink. I've noticed that people have gotten more of a habit in the comment sections to like state when something is AI and also point out like specific ways you can tell, which is good. Keep doing that, people. But the issue of the AI on Pinterest, I think even more kind of motivates me to want to actually post some of my own work. Gotta balance the ratio out. And there's sometimes also this issue of people on Pinterest reposting artwork from other sites without much credit. It happens so often that I don't even really think people think too much about it and don't do it maliciously. But which I think is also just another reason to want to post on there, so that way my artwork can be more directly traced back to me on Pinterest. I don't know, I think it could be fun and a nice way to just get my art out there. Maybe in the description of this video I'll like have my Pinterest set up with some artwork posted on it. I think I'm noticing that my sketchy technique is shifting a little bit from trying to make shading that's a little bit smoother to getting a little more, I guess like a little more loose with it. I think maybe for this dragon, I will just talk you through how I've been generally rendering each of these. General layouts of where all the colors are going to be. Like in this one, we've got the color palette of yellow, light blue, and purple. And I'm presuming if we put the light blue on top of yellow, that it'll make a little bit of a more greenish tint. I sometimes avoid doing this to every single little detail, just in case I need to add like a little blip of color here and there, just to tie everything together or to add some contrast. Coloring this one in, anticipating that I'm probably going to do some sort of gradient with these frills. I think maybe that's the term for them. And then we'll have these little droplet things be yellow. I think for the most contrast, it would be best to have it start purple on the inside and then go out into light blue. One hot tip if you're using something kind of like these mechanical pencils, never underestimate the power of a good gradient. Nice smooth gradients carry. As I'm sketching all of these little pieces out over and over again, I'm realizing that I think the evolution of this dragon has changed once again. Originally the dragon was supposed to be flower coated, but then it kind of changed to look a little bit more kind of like those funny little lizard coated. And now it ends up looking a whole lot more bird coated. Birds of paradise, specifically. Okay, gosh. Whew. That's done over with. What am I gonna do with the rest of this? I think it would be best to try to keep most of the body and the wings generally yellow, just so it helps balance out like the sheer of the peacock feather thing. After I get kind of the colors generally blocked in, I then begin just going in section by section and just adding some shading, some coloring. Okay, eyeliner time. Okay, I kind of just absentmindedly did the little stripes thing, and okay, it's kind of working. I kind of like it. I can't believe this dragon also gets to be kind of bee-coated. No way. I think we're really close to wrapping this one up, since I'm probably just going to add some light blue shading to a lot of this remaining yellow body. Sometimes, when coloring with pencils like this, less is more in terms of shading. Sometimes just a little squaggle, and just a singular color being used to shade here and there is enough to get the idea of value. Throwing in a little bit of fun texture just for the sillies. Probably some purple line art just so everything looks like it goes together. You know what? I was a little wary of this color palette. I wasn't sure if the colors would go, how well the colors would really go together, but they've pulled through. Whew, it is heating up in here, and we've got one more to go. I think for this last one, I'm gonna actually add in some yellow. The original color palette was pink and green, and so I think I might throw on a yellow layer under some of the parts that are going to be green, just so the green lanes a little more like grass or lime green-ish. Oh, okay, that's looking like I was thinking in my head. The bottom right corner is a little bit of an awkward angle for my arm to be at, but sometimes when I draw in bed a lot, especially at like an odd angle, it can really be the wrists and forearms that end up aching after a while. Oh, might as well wrap up by finishing up this little bit down here. We're gonna attempt, for all of these leaves on the head, a pink to green gradient. We'll see if the yellow can be a little bit of an intermediary. It's kind of got almost a tropical vibe to it. That's great. Let's lean into it. I think green line art will probably be the most practical. Yeah, as it turns out, the yellow here in like the, I guess we'll call this a mane, doesn't look too bad. I think it adds some extra dimension that I probably should stick with. Like, if this dragon was a scent, it probably would make for a really nice candle. This table thing is actually pretty nice and convenient for when I want to do something a little more elaborate. I think I got this as a Christmas gift, and I became really into using it for the rest of that winter break. Not so much for the weeks after, because by then I went back to my college, and I had my own set studio. It was one that was a little bit more secluded. It was quiet. It had like actual air conditioning and heat, which is something I can't even say about my apartment back that semester. And honestly, I do really miss that space. It was really nice just when I wanted to sit down and work on projects for any of my art classes. It was a really short walk from my apartment too, which was nice. And because it was my designated like sit down and do workspace, I found that my brain is like, this is this place where we think. Also, dang, I'm realizing the green line art is looking pretty good so far. I'm glad I went with that choice. I'm gonna do some like more sketchy shading to make the areas here that are just pink a little bit more visually interesting. Attempting to angle my hand so that it does not get in the way of the view of the camera. Oh my goodness, we're so close to done. We just have to do these little antler things. Alright, gradient for the win. Woo! That is our last dragon done. Whew. I think I'm pretty happy with this. And so I probably will have a little close-up of each little one. But yes, here they are. For someone who hasn't drawn like dragons in a while, especially dragons that were my own designs, I'm pretty happy with it for what it is. Comment down below which one is your little fave. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night, or whatever, and sleep well. Be eepy. Bye bye.